November 11th will be the UFC light heavyweight title bout between Jiri Prochazka and Alex Pereira. And of course, this is now the main event, and most people don't know, or most people do know. Jon Jones has pulled out of the fight with a pec injury, like his entire pec just ripped off from the bone, which is a very painful thing, and he'll be out for 8 months. So no Jon Jones versus Stipe Miocic. Very weird, but they did save it for a later date, obviously, most likely like next year. But of course, what they replace it with the interim heavyweight title fight between Sergei Pavlovich and Tom Aspinall, which is a very good fight, as both people have a ton of first round knockouts or finishes. Like, they're both off of, I don't know, like 5-6 first round knockout streaks. So very, very interesting bout. But of course, let's talk about Pavlovich versus Aspinall first, right? And of course, Aspinall did open up as a very, very slight favorite against Sergei Pavlovich. And I think that's for a somewhat good reason, of course, because Pavlovich is very powerful, don't get me wrong. He has first round knockouts over like Derek Lewis, which then again, Derek Lewis, not really a big name on your resume anymore. No offense to Derek Lewis, very funny guy, USA. But of course, people say Pavlovich has enough power and Jon Jones was ducking him. Was that the case? Probably. Then again, he's trying to fight a 40-year-old, basically retired Stipe Miocic for his last fight, saying, "Oh, I beat the GOAT of the heavyweight division." Yeah, the GOAT like 5 years ago. What's wrong with you? You were gone for 5 years. You ain't do nothing. But of course, whatever. That's for another video, right? And of course, Tom Aspinall also has some first round knockouts, but he also has first round submissions. And I think that's the reason why he's opened up as a slight favorite. That's because he has a little bit more to his arsenal, right? He's a little bit more to his kit than Pavlovich does. Don't get me wrong, Pavlovich is very powerful, but considering Aspinall also has first round knockouts, it's probably not by that much. Obviously, the power, it doesn't even matter who's more powerful, because if any one of these people land a strong hit on the other person, it's over. Especially if Aspinall hits Pavlovich. Because not only can he just ground and pound to a victory, but if Pavlovich tries to get up, he just wrestles him back to the ground. I don't think Pavlovich can do that. Or maybe he can, obviously. It depends on how hurt Aspinall is. But I do think Aspinall does take this via second round submission. That's right. I think this fight goes to the second round. It has to, because both these people obviously know what the other is capable of. First round stoppages, that's crazy. You don't just go in there guns blazing against someone like that, especially Pavlovich against Aspinall, because Aspinall can submit Pavlovich and or just knock him out. And I do think that's the reason why he opened up as a slight favorite, and that's because, he's a little bit more diverse in his kit. He can submit and he can knock out. But, of course, am I going to bet on this? No. Well, first of all, I'm not even allowed to bet. But, of course, if I was allowed to bet, I'm still not betting, because considering it's Pavlovich versus Aspinall, there really is no clear winner. Basically, who lands the big shot first. And although on paper Aspinall should win this, at the same time, anyone can land a big hit, and if that happens, that's basically it. I don't say that they completely won, it's in the bag, but it's probably who's going to win. But of course, I will be picking Aspinall to win, although very risky bet. You probably should not bet on this fight. I don't care who you think you are. Probably not a good bet. But of course, like I said, Aspinall's going to win the interim heavyweight title and most likely be elevated to full champion, because they're like, oh yeah, the only reason why they haven't stripped Jon Jones because of the injury, they're like, oh, why would they strip Jon Jones? It's 8 months. 8 entire months of recovery. That's stalling the division. That's at least 3 fights for Pavlovich or Aspinall after this fight. But of course, whatever. That's what they want to do. That's what they want to do. And of course, the main event, Jiri Prochazka versus Alex Pereira for the vacant light heavyweight championship, which has been vacated for quite a bit of time. People are like, oh, the light heavyweight championship belt is cursed because literally everyone has been injured. Because literally, this will be Alex Pereira's second fight at light heavyweight in the UFC, at least. And he'll be fighting for a vacant belt after beating the former light heavyweight world champion Jan Blachowicz. And now he's fighting another former light heavyweight world champion for the vacant belt. Quite a lot of former champions in the division. Like, okay, Glover Teixeira basically retired already, but the former champion Jamal Hill also retired because of an injury. Okay, not retired, but he basically vacated the belt because of an injury, which is crazy because anyone who wins this belt is probably going to get injured. People are like, oh, the Madden curse, the UFC cover curse. What about the light heavyweight curse? But that's crazy. But of course, who do I think is going to win this one? It's going to be very interesting because Jiri Prochazka can wrestle, although not like D1 level wrestling. He could definitely wrestle. But then again, Jan Blachowicz could also wrestle, but he couldn't do that with Alex Pereira, although he did take him to the floor. Couldn't really do anything. And Pereira, obviously, on the stand-up game, is absolutely an amazing fighter. He's one of the best kickboxers in the world. I think he's the only and first two-division Glory Kickboxing World Champion. But then again, I don't know. I need to double-check that. But, of course, Alex Pereira, stand-up game, absolutely amazing. His takedown defense has gotten way better. And, of course, that's really all you need. A takedown defense so you don't get taken to the floor. Because if you keep it stand-up, if you keep it on the feet, Pereira is just going to piece up Prochazka. Prochazka is, I don't want to say vulnerable on the feet, but he's very vulnerable on the feet, especially up against Teixeira, his fight with Teixeira, which people said Glover was winning up until, well, he made a dumb mistake. Alex Pereira needs to keep this on the feet, obviously, because he's not really much of a wrestler, obviously. But, of course, Jiri was like, oh, I'm a stand up and bang with him because I need to figure out this man's power, which is, everyone realized it's just a bluff because Jan Blachowicz literally said the same thing, and within the first 30 seconds, he shot a takedown. Did it work? I actually don't know. I didn't watch the fight. I was watching something else. But of course, who do I think is going to win? I got Alex Pereira, third round knockout of Jiri Prochazka. I think at 205, I think he's a little bit more, obviously he's a little bit better because obviously draining yourself to 185 is probably not the best. But of course, 205 is most likely his weight class. And I do think he knocks him out with a left hook. Why a left hook? Because goddamn, that man does not miss with a left hook. He's like, bah, 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 bah. But whatever, right? And of course, does Jiri have a chance? Of course. If he manages to wrestle and outpoint Pereira, I do think he manages to do it. Because on the feet, I don't think he beats Pereira. Especially because, well, Pereira is one of the best kickboxers in the world, obviously, like I said before. I just don't think he beats him on the stand, on the feet. I think he has to, everyone already knows this. He has to take him down. But not only that, keep him on the floor to not only gain points, but to not let Pereira work. And does that happen for 5 rounds? No, I don't think he does it for 5 rounds. I think Pereira starts to get better at stuffing the takedowns and starts piecing him up. I do think he takes him out in the 3rd round. But don't get me wrong, Prochazka is a good fighter. Don't get me wrong, but Pereira, I just think he's just that guy. That one loss to Adesanya was a fluke. I think everyone knows that. But of course, Pereira's all like, oh, his resume is trash. If he beats Prochazka, especially via knockout, I'm not gonna say he's top 5 of all time, but he's definitely up there, especially in MMA, obviously, because his resume is. They were like, oh, his resume is trash. But don't get me wrong, you could definitely criticize it, but he beat a future world champion in Sean Strickland. He beat the current world champion in Adesanya, and he beat 2 former world champions to get the light heavyweight belt. That's of course if he wins. I do think that's a good resume, especially if he has to defend it against the other former world champion, Jamal Hill. So, if he beats Hill, which we'll talk about that another time, I do think he should be up there in MMA. But of course, that is the end of the video. I got Tom Aspinall 2nd round submission over Sergei Pavlovich. I do think Aspinall will not go for the on the feet knockout. I think he's going to go to the floor and try to submit Pavlovich. Pavlovich is very strong, don't get me wrong. Don't count him out. But on paper, I do get why Aspinall's a slight favorite, and I do pick him to win. 2nd round submission. Of course, Alex Pereira versus Jiri Prochazka. Prochazka will obviously have to take down Pereira. Maybe not to submit him, because I don't think he poses that much of a submission threat. But to not let Pereira work, to take him out of his rhythm, to not let Pereira obviously get in the groove, get loose. But I do think Pereira stuffs the takedowns, especially after round 2, or especially during round 2 and after. I do think he stops Prochazka in round number 3 to become a 2-division UFC world champion, which I think is a very, very good thing, right? Of course, like I said, hope you enjoyed this video. The next one, it's going to be boxing again. That'll be the Shakur Stevenson versus Edwin De Los Santos fight. But anyways, like I said, hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll catch you in the next one.